Seer, our non-stimulant, thermogenic, and recomposition agent. Seer is a super cool product because it's going to help you utilize turning your white adipose tissue, which is for storage of fat, into brown adipose tissue, which is going to help with energy production. So this is great to use for a competition prep or in your weight loss phase. So you can stack it with a stimulant-based thermogenic, or you could also use it in your off-season or muscle building phase to help keep you lean and mean. Seer.
Welcome back to the Prophecy Code. It's another girls' day. I feel like we've had a couple, because Steven's been, preparing to be broken he's momentarily, I guess he's sewn back together now. He had surgery yesterday. I still can't figure out how to say the name of the surgery. Fundoplication or something like of the sort. So he had a crazy surgery yesterday. I'm hoping he'll be back next week, with us. And then actually I won't be here.
Fuck Steven.
So I don't think he would have had as much fun today. Although, one day it might be kind of interesting to get his take on today's topic, because he's a guy who coaches a lot of women. So, I mean, he does have to have like a pretty good understanding of working with women on their periods. And so that's what we're talking about, because you're all happy to know that I'm on mine right now and I was thinking about it. And so on Friday we had, are we synced? What? I swear that I sync up with people over the internet. Because it happens with a lot of my clients and I'm like, oh, how did that happen?
I mean, I'm just finishing mine.
I just kicked off. So I'm in the tomorrow's day 3. And I mean, we can go, I'll breaking that up like in the future, but I feel like day 3 is when periods like don't suck as much and like things start to level out. If someone puts on water weight, that's usually when it starts to come down, like things like that. So we basically, if you're a guy and you were preparing to listen today, we're literally just going to talk about periods and how it might affect your ability to stick to your macros, what it can do to your workouts, your sleep, your body temperature, your mood, all of that kind of stuff, with the, I can't think of the word, I guess, disclaimer that like, we're coaches. We're smart people who have gone to school and things like that. We're not gynecologists. We aren't hormone specialists. We're not like any of those things. And so if you have any big concerns, like don't come seeking podcasts, go talk to your doc. But there's that. We've all had periods for a long, long time and figured out how to make them work like for us, I guess, or like work around them. And it comes up every single time I do a Q&A. Every time. Like, how do we navigate it? So, ladies, first thoughts. What you got for me, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, it comes around every month. And so it's something we can kind of plan for a little bit too. When you start actually maybe even looking closer at it or tracking it. I know when I start to onboard some female clients, I do talk to them. I'm like, nothing is TMI. Tell me everything, because the more information I have, the more I'm going to learn about you and how your body is functioning, because every single body is different. And then the more you're going to learn about yourself in this entire process too. I think it's a huge learning experience, especially when it comes to menstrual cycles, about when it comes, why it comes, how it comes, and then knowing that every single time it comes, it's probably going to be a little bit different. But there are some commonalities that we can definitely discuss from terms of like your biofeedback, what does change, and that what we know from the science. But I think in general, it's something that we can definitely look at, plan for, and then just continue to learn more about. The more we get to know the client and the more, we kind of delve into it with them.
Yeah, I mean, I have a question on my intake form, like prior to me speaking to anyone, I require that you fill out a intake form with me. And on that intake form is, do you track your cycle and do you currently have a cycle? Like, because some people don't have a cycle. You might not have a cycle due to maybe you're pregnant. Maybe you are in menopause. There is like amenorrhea. So you have loss of a period. Maybe it's after birth control. Maybe it's because of a show. Maybe it's from whatever it is. So there's like, you might be tracking your cycle. You might not have any idea, but the fact of the matter is data is power. And so when I'm like checking in with my clients, they check in with a very detailed spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet is, are you do you have your menstrual cycle or not? And so then you can start to correlate different like ways that you're feeling. So crankiness, mood, fatigue. You might experience like just feeling more tired in the gym, not being able to push as much, and cravings and things like that. And body weight scale fluctuates. But I think the scale fluctuations get people in a knot. But the fact of the matter is, data is power. Everybody is different, but you're going to be able to see that correlation and go, oh, wait, no, okay, I'm about to have my cycle, or whatever it is. Like some people have weight fluctuations while they're bleeding, weight fluctuations on day like, I don't know, 22 to 28, that kind of thing. Let me actually backtrack, because day 1 of your cycle is when you're bleeding.
Mhm.
If we talk about cycle,
We
day
should
1,
establish like
yeah, like let's
a roadmap.
Wait, let's establish that, because some people don't know. So
Mhm.
like day 1 is, if I'm talking about day 1, that's the day that you start your bleed. And then you bleed for X amount of days. And again, nothing is like not normal or abnormal. Everybody's a little bit different depending on age, and like if you're on birth control, because if you're taking the pill, well, that's regulated. And if you're not on any type of birth control, it's very different. But hormones basically like ebb and flow throughout the next 28 or so days, somewhere between like 24 days to 32 days, however long it is. And at about midway point, your hormones start to really drastically fluctuate. And that's where a lot of people start to see fatigue or changes in libido and all of that kind of stuff. And then I find about 5 days to a week before you start your cycle again, before you bleed, is when all of those hormones kind of bottom out. And that's when you're probably going to start to feel tired, have cravings, and like just aches. Maybe you have cramps and that kind of thing. But if you think about it, that's basically your body going, okay, we didn't conceive. Let's just get rid of this uteral lining, and everything kind of drops. So of course you're going to feel a little bit crappy. Some people have like bowel movements are kind of funky.
Yeah.
But everybody is very different. And so if you're like wondering if this is you or something's wrong with you, it's probably not. Just track those things and start becoming aware of it. Because those cycles are like the cycles of your hormones are normal. Women are more susceptible to like changes in hormones than men are. So it's just good to kind of know and become aware of this stuff and start to understand your body.
Yeah. So, and it's funny how much it can change too. Just like with one person, like, with mine coming back after having Claire, it took a year for it to come back because we were nursing. And then, we were still nursing past the 12-month point, but, she started to have food and stuff like that. So then your period can start to come back. And so now she's like about to be 2.5 in September. And my period is an entirely different beast than it's literally ever been my entire life. Like I have always been a like very light, usually 3, maybe 4 days, but pretty consistent, like 28-day long cycles. That I could count on. Although if you ask my husband, he's like, you're a liar. You've never been very good at tracking your cycle. Because I'm always like, because none of our kids were like planned. And I'm always like, no, babe, I'm on top of it. And then, 4 kids later. But, so I like track it and everything. But now since having Claire, I've never before in my life known when ovulation was happening. And now I am like excessively aware that ovulation is coming because of the changes that happen with how things feel below the belt. Like, I mean, to the extent that I was like, I would have rather had my period the day of my marathon than be approaching ovulation, because like I get more uncomfortable there. And that's like a pelvic floor thing too, that goes back to the fluctuations in your hormones, because that can affect how your body can handle all of that too. And so for me, during ovulation, like my low abs and just my pelvic floor in general feel like they have given up on life. and like they don't want to hang out. They are not doing their job. Everything just feels like weird. And I don't really get weird, like emotional things around ovulation, but my period ever since having Claire, I like my poor husband. And then if I'll be like, oh, well, my period's coming, he's like, yeah, that tracks. And I like, I was never that person before. I feel like where I had like big PMS. And now like I keep an eye on my cycle more so I can be like, just let you know, babe, we're on like day 24. So I'm gonna pick a fight like at some point in the next 4 days. Like, or I'm gonna be like an emotional disaster and just cry about everything. Like, and I despise it. And so now I've noticed that it's been like pretty consistent for probably like 4 or 5 months that happens. And so like that's less than ideal. There might be something I can fix there. I haven't had like blood work and things like that done like recently. And so probably should like figure that kind of stuff out. And so that's one of the other tricks with it is like even within your own body. And I haven't been on birth control since, oh my God, it's been like 12, 13 years since I've been on the pill. And so like that hasn't done it. It's just been children. And even like after each child, it changed. And so it really is just like, it's the craziest thing, I think, our menstrual cycle.
Do you guys have a Aura ring? You do, Christina. Sarah, do you?
I take the pill.
Oh, okay, you're on the pill. Yeah. So like, because there's different ways that you can track it. Because people might be wondering, like I use my ring and it tracks your body temperature.
Right.
And I mean, I've shared this on the podcast before. I didn't have my period for like 3 years when I started competing. So I've had it now for another like about 2 years. Yay. And now that I also have the Aura ring, I can definitely tell now that I can correlate that stuff. Go like, oh, okay, ovulation is happening. I'm definitely a little bit more interested in Bob around that time. Right? Like there's like those types of things. But when I was on the pill, I didn't have any of those symptoms,
Right.
but that's because everything is kind of like regulated for you. But you don't have to have the Aura ring. There's like lots of apps that also track it for you. Like I think Natural Cycles will track it without the ring. You can use Natural Cycles with the ring as well. Like a lot of things are like integrated.
I think
I think there's even like some,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I think there's even some like pregnancy apps out there that will help you, even if you don't try to become pregnant, but it will help you just get on to like, this is when you're supposed to be ovulating, this is when you're supposed to be getting your cycle, and you can like use that to kind of maybe set yourself up and just start tracking it, even if you're not planning on having a kid.
My Garmin has menstrual tracking in it now too. And what I like about having something like that, like the Garmin, you know, then keys what it has to say kind of towards people it's assuming are going to be pretty active with stuff. And so it'll tell me at like different points in my cycle, like, hey, you're in this phase. And so you might feel extra strong, like go do this. Or like, hey, you might feel a little like low on stuff. And so it might be a good idea to search out some iron rich foods this week. And like, you might be a bit hungrier. And so I think for people who are trying to gain that understanding, it can be a good idea to get like into that. But the big thing, and I know like Jess and I have talked about this before. And so like, Sarah, I'm curious about your opinion on it, but it got, what was it? Like probably 2 years ago when like the cycle syncing workouts got like really popular and people were like, oh my God, do not like lift weights during your luteal phase because it's a complete waste of time and you'll turn into a monster. And then like at other points, you're supposed to do like this and that. And it was like, it just, to me, I would read that. And of course, because like, I always want to try and optimize things. I would think like, oh shit, should I be doing that? Like, I know for me, if I'm bleeding, that is strongest Christina. I can go into a gym and absolutely fuck it up. And that's like with my back hurting and cramps, that's the time that like, if I want to hit a PR, that's going to be my week that I can make it happen. Talk to me during ovulation. And I'm like a sad little thing who's like probably going to take it easy. But like, have you ever done that like for a client where like, would you adjust their training that often?
I have not. I think that, I think it's good to track your training intensity over the course of a month and notice things like you notice too. I think my clients do also notice similar things about they do feel strongest when they are bleeding. They do feel crappy during that week, but I also remind them that that is a good opportunity to get in the gym and crush it because that is hormonally a stronger time for you. And to be gracious with yourself, obviously during the other points where you might feel a little bit less energized and more fatigued, but I don't strategically program like deloads for that time. I just say, just be gracious with yourself. If it's a particularly bad one, then yeah, sure, take an extra rest day. But I don't like changing training up that much and being that much in the weeds because I think also things fluctuate so much, even month to month with our hormones as well, that even changing training that much, I don't think is going to elicit like the most amount of gains or all the muscle loss in the world. I think, yes, it can ebb and flow, but it's not going to be like this massive like peaks and valleys like the people may have thought it was when it first started coming out. At least that's my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, like honestly, we aren't little men. Like these things do affect us, but we're not fucking snowflakes. Like
Have you read this?
no, but it's on my list of things to like, and it's
That's
actually
like what
on my
she
like,
says. She's like,
really?
we are not miniature men. Like,
Oh.
and so it's like funny that you said that. And then I just happen to have it right here.
Yeah, actually that's on my, I have like an Amazon like client list
We
thing.
should tell them it's Roar is what we're talking about.
Yeah, sorry,
By
it's a
Dr.
book.
Stacey Sims.
Watch it on YouTube. But that book is actually on my like Amazon client list. Anyways, we're not snowflakes. And so I think some of this, yes, like you're going to experience some fatigue. Like I know for me last week lifting was hella hard.
Yeah.
But okay, there could have been other factors. And if you're like, ooh, this is the week where I'm supposed to be weaker or whatever, then you're going to be fucking weaker, right? So like it can be in your mind. I don't want people to think like they have to hold themselves back or they have to train a certain way because like, oh my gosh, maybe, XYZ. You could be leaving a lot on the table. Like just train to the capacity that you're able to train to. And there might be, like Sarah said, like there might be days where, yeah, you're feeling a little tired. Okay. It could be due to your cycle. It could be due to the fact that your kids woke you up 4 times the last night.
Right.
Right. So like, I think a lot of like those cycle syncing workouts, honestly, it's a load of shit. Like
Yeah.
one, listen to your body. Yes, sure. But also just train. We're not snowflakes. We're not like, we don't have to like take it easy. Yes, take it easy if you have to take it easy, but like, just don't think that because you have a period that you have to be whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
my
use it as an
opinion. I'm like,
excuse.
just don't leave stuff on the table just because you think that you should be feeling some type of way.
Well, I mean, so the workout like kind of ideas that we're talking about is like things had gone out there where they were like, and it probably would have been the luteal phase where they're like, you should only do yoga, Pilates, light walks, and then, the first week, menstruation phase, then, lift super heavy. You're going to do heavy, low reps. And then like the next week, you're going to do high volume, like, and it was very different.
Mm-hmm.
Like completely different styles every single week. And I mean, you could make progress doing that. I could not handle like the mental and like organizational side of that. That would drive me absolutely bonkers. Sorry.
Yeah, and like, how are you supposed to progressively overload that? It's like, well, a month ago when I did this workout, I did this. So
Right.
like, how are you going to do that? I mean, you could potentially, but like, I don't know. And you're right. It's
could. It's just probably not going to be best, and like it's the numbers are going to look much slower, like that progression, because we have that big space. And so like I pay attention to mine enough to know it's about 4 weeks. And then I can kind of, okay, middle of the month, I'm probably, well, what is it now? We're like middle of the month. My marathon threw it off by 2 weeks. I used to be, this would be ovulation. And then I would start the first week. And then my race was the 19th. And I was probably like 5 or 6 days from where I was supposed to have ovulated. And I started the next day and was like, what are you doing here? Like,
What is this?
Yeah. And so now I've like shifted. And so big things like that can happen. You know, I went and ran for 5 hours and apparently my body was like, what are we doing? And so I just completely distracted my own self.
You're good. I think stress has a lot to do with it. As far as like stressful events, you know, like I had a client that got married that actually lost it the week of her wedding. She was supposed to get it the week of her wedding and she was actually very nervous. She was like, I don't want to have my cycle the week of my wedding. And then boom, it was gone for a week. And then it came on our honeymoon. I'm like, are you happy now?
Look what you asked for.
Exactly. So, but I think stress plays a huge role in that. And then also I think accommodating with stress too, not just mental stress, but also dieting stress too. For some of our clients who are in a longer dieting phase, maybe even a contest prep scenario, it can happen to where it gets a lot more wonky, a lot less predictable, just because of the stress we're putting on our body through dieting and through cardio.
So let's talk about why there, real quick, with like diet and exercise induced amenorrhea. And so Jess, ready, go.
Okay. It's basically if you're putting your body through stress, so like immense amount of calorie deficit and amount of like exercise, that's a stressor to the body, and you not having a cycle or like bleeding, is a sign that your body is like, oh, okay, we're in a period where it's not really optimal for us to have a baby. And so it's basically a protective mechanism of your body just being like, okay, we're not ready to do that. So like that's kind of a red flag, honestly. And I mean, competitors, it's very common for competitors to lose their cycle. Like very common. Yep, mine, I mean, that's why I lost mine for 3 years.
Yeah.
Or some whatever that number was. So and I also lost it because I decided to reverse diet and then come off of birth control at the same time. Like terrible idea. And so you might also have loss of a cycle due to coming off of birth control, because then it's basically taking away synthetic hormones and then it's your body like trying to re-regulate itself.
Yeah.
Individuals who have had eating disorders will go through amenorrhea. Even athletes, like I know as myself, as well as from coaching young women, their cycles will come later, like in life. So instead of, I don't know what it is, like 12 to 14 years of age,
Girl, it's
they'll be
crazy now. It's
right,
like 10.
is it like 10? Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's like really
nuts.
young.
But it has sometimes it like if you look at not evolutionarily, but like over time, like anthropologically and like stuff, it's more like food availability and stuff and like easier lives essentially.
Oh,
And then
makes
I mean,
sense.
of course there's people who talk about like hormones and like food and like things like that there, but a lot of it, like, because it used to be very different when, you know, farming days where like little girls were out working farms and stuff, and didn't have as much access to food. Over time it started getting sooner and sooner and sooner. But I have been very shocked to have clients recently, and then with, you know, the kids being in sports and stuff, like I have to start carrying things in my cheer bag, and I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not ready for that. Like,
For
it's
your
crazy.
kiddo.
Yeah. So energy availability. Sorry, go.
Yeah, and it's it comes back to like like I always think about the female athlete triad,
Yes.
which is energy availability, so like your intake as well as exercise and like bone density, and like your cycle. And so basically that's kind of what they're talking about in relation to like young women and athletes and their loss of a cycle and like their health. And so if you are dieting and your cycle starts to get a little wonky, or just kind of goes away, that's something to definitely keep an eye on and just be cognizant of. I'm not one to be like, oh my God, you don't have a period, let's like get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a competitor, like you're gonna get to stage. That's a quote unquote sacrifice that you do and you're willing to make when you enter a contest prep. But then after contest prep or after a diet, that needs to be like the primary focus is getting your cycle back.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where like you know, because we all talk to women who want to diet more or want to get leaner and stuff like that. And this is outside of competitors, right? Like with competitors, that is why people talk about bodybuilding being an extreme sport, because I'm more surprised to find out a competitor has maintained it through an entire prep than I am to find out that they lost it. Like, it's just, we're getting to unnatural levels of body fat that the body does not like. And so it freaks out. And like the way I talk to clients about it is like, you know, if you're doing all of this stuff and you're not eating enough, then your body is like, she's being chased by tigers and we're in a famine. And so, no, we should not make babies. So just like you were saying that you talk to clients about, but, you know, people will be like, oh, well, no, I lost my period, you know, because of like dieting a couple years ago. It's never come back, but like, I'm fine. Like, bet you're not. Like, you might.
That was me for 3 years. You're not fine.
We've all been there, right? At some point. And that's why we can like talk about it this way. Cause like we've done that. But I mean, it is a big way for your body to be like, I am not fine. And it wants to have periods. And so that comes back to the other thing too, with like birth control and like, not that birth control is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I was horrific at taking the pill, like really bad at doing it consistently. And then, so I used to be on the shot, the Depo shot, had started that very young at like 16, because I did not want to end up pregnant. And, but nobody, when I got into the Navy, it wasn't until after like a couple of years that a doctor was like, you know, you're only supposed to be on Depo for like 3 years, like in your life, or it's like 3 to 7 years, something like that, where you're not supposed to consistently be getting it all the time. And I had been doing that for like 9 years at some point, and it like leaches everything from your bones. And no surprise, I then, like, while I was in the military, had stress fractures. I had to do a bone density scan. I was like, what are all those holes? And then like, what are those dots on my bones? And they're like, those are holes in your bones, actually. And so like had to work on rebuilding all of that. And so like one of the things with birth control is like, if I find out one of my clients is like routinely skipping the week where it's supposed to give you your period, and they like don't want to have it. And so they're just like skipping it all the time. And it's like, well, I almost think of like your period is like your body needs to like blow its nose. Like it needs to get it done. Like,
oh my God, yay. That's so gross, but awesome.
Would you just keep that in your face and be like, that would be really inconvenient for me to go find a tissue right now? No, you would fix it. So like, have your period, okay? Like, let those things happen so that it can get into a good place. And then that way, like, I mean, I'm always a fan of people making sure that they're checking in with that and not getting lazy about it, because doctors, I think, can just keep giving like scripts and then not look into like other factors of like what's going on like with your body and things. And so even though like it's a prescription that you get like from a doctor and stuff, I would still double check like what's going on with your body. Don't skip your periods all the time. And if they're not coming on their own, it's a big sign that like, I could probably guess your macros, which like sounds crazy, or like your calorie level, you know, like your range of calories where we're at, or it's going to be like, we're doing a lot of things, like a lot of things where like, so I run 4 times a week, and then I go to CrossFit 3 times a week, and then I do yoga at night 4 times a week, and then I go to Pilates, and like they'll have all of these things.
And I have 3 kids, and I sleep for 5 hours a night. Oh, and I have
I'm eating 1,200 calories a day. Wonder why I can't lose weight.
And then I get home and I have 2 glasses of wine. It's not a big deal. Like things like that. And a lot of it is probably to help support their stress levels, right? Like I get that. Like I need to go run. Like when I get crazy, Vic's like first response is to be like, you should go on a run right now. And like, cause he knows like, as soon as I get out there, I'll be better when I get back. I can go and like work things out in my head and I feel good. Does that mean I should always be doing that? Like, no, because eventually it catches up to my body and beats me up and things like that. And so even things like, I had a client recently ask about like adding bar into the routine on rest days. And I was like, but then it's not a rest day. it's a bar day now. And even if it feels easier, it is still something that we're doing. And so if you're one of those people where like it's just become normal to not have your period, it also doesn't mean that you need to go like top to bottom and change everything all at once, but start looking at that. Like, I forget who used to say like the junk volume, but like, are we doing junk volume like with things, and can we pull back, or can we add a snack somewhere and things like that, and try to get into a better place. What about macros for you guys? And or not like for you, but I mean like calorie wise and like clients and things like that, if they struggle throughout the month consistently, how do you address that? And then they say it's like related to their cycle.
I mean, I ask, like, it's normal, quote unquote normal, to have cravings around your cycle.
Mhm.
So that's a fact. Are you gonna die if you go off your macros? And like, in some regard, I'm like, okay, well, what kind of phase are you in? Are we in a growth phase? Do I care that you're having a cookie like one of the days? I really don't care. Cool. You know, but like if we're in a fat loss phase and you're kind of not seeing progress, or we're like in a maintenance phase and you're kind of in your head about your body weight around your cycle anyways, and then you're like, oh, well, I just had this because I had cravings. I really implore my clients to be like, okay, ask yourself what was going on, right? Because you're going to experience hunger. So it's the same thing with like, well, I was hungry. Okay, well, you're going to be hungry because that's like literally a human function. If you weren't hungry, you would die. Like if you didn't have hunger signals and somebody didn't tell you to eat, you would literally die. So if you are hungry, that's just a normal thing. We don't need to be scared of it. We don't need to be reactive. And so if you're having cravings and you're going, oh shit, I feel like chocolate. I feel like chocolate's the thing. Because I feel that. It's like, okay, cool. You track macros. Can you put chocolate in your plan? Can you have chocolate? I mean, I actually eat chocolate every day. So can you have chocolate in your plan every day? I'm in contest prep and I have chocolate every day. So like,
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's not a big deal. You don't need to make it a big deal. You have macros, make adjustments, or just be like, damn, I want this, but I'm in a phase where I can't make that fit. Okay, I'm going to have some water and I'm going to like sit in that and I'm going to move on, right? Like some people sometimes think that as disordered, but I almost think of it as if you're so reactive to every little thing that you're emotionally thinking about in said time, like you would get fired from your job. Like you would probably have terrible relationships. So it's the same thing. It's kind of like looking externally at what's going on and asking yourself, okay, well, like, are you ready to make that choice? And are you ready to make that choice? You're an adult, but then don't be upset about it if you are caving to your in the moment emotions instead of being more responsive or like proactive instead
Mhm.
of reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about
I
you,
love the proactive versus reactive approach as far as just like, hey, if you know it's coming, it comes around the same-ish time every single month, and you know that usually maybe you are craving something sweet or something salty. Some of my clients crave like both, actually. Like chocolate covered pretzels is like one of my clients' favorite things to have with her cycle. And I'm like, great, wonderful. If you know that, buy a smaller bag, don't buy the family size bag, and measure out a portion and fit it into your day and put it as part of your meal. Never have it by itself, because we know how well that goes for the majority of people, having something like that, a fun food like that. It's very hard to stop at that point. But if you make it, not making it a huge deal either as well, I think we put more mental weight on the fact of like, oh, I'm indulging in this and I'm just like, it's my cycle, so I quote unquote deserve this or whatever. I'm like, no, we eat food because it's there, and some of the foods are more fun than others because they taste awesome. Everything tastes awesome anyways. But making it part of your meal, never having it by itself, and then fitting it into your day, and building up that trust in yourself that you can do that over the course of a few months and getting those reps in. Similar to the gym, we have to get those reps in to get better at doing this kind of stuff. Otherwise, if we keep saying, oh, I'm going to be good on my cycle, and then we go off the rails, we're just continuing going back and forth and not seeing that progress that we want to see month to month. And then we're going to be like, oh, it's my cycle again, I'm going to go off again, and things like that. Instead of saying, no, you want to do something different, you want to make a change, especially if you aren't seeing progress, especially if you are in a fat loss phase, then make the decision, like you said, Jess, make the choice that you're going to do something a little bit different.
Yeah. And like, is it a big deal if you don't have it? Is it a big deal? Like, boo-hoo, I wanted a creamy when I got home from Denver on Sunday, and I didn't have one in the freezer. Okay, I didn't have one, and I planned for it the next day. Like, I don't know. I just, sometimes I'm like, is it a big deal if you don't have it?
Right. It comes off harsh, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure, for people who are not where we're at with it. And like that goes back to the fact that we have put years and years and years of reps in, like, to get here. But like somebody had asked this in the Transformation Challenge Q&A, and they were like, what do I do if I end up like over by like 500 to 1,000 calories like on the days of my period? And I was like, stop that. Like, which sounds bad, but like for me, cravings aren't really a thing because I'm just a very like routine person. But like I said, for me, it's emotions. And like I'll get to the place where like I legitimately want to like throw my shoe at a mirror or something like that, because that would be a really good release and feel good. Like in that moment, that's what I'm thinking, like, oh, I'm so pissed. And like, but I don't, because that would be extreme. And so we have to, like, we can make those same things, but because like Jess was saying that it's like keeping you alive, it's biology to send you hunger signals and to do these things and stuff like that. Plan ahead of time. Like if you know that you are somebody that gets into those situations, I have a couple of clients where it will throw them off the rails. And so then we plan for it. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's your responsibility then to keep me abreast on your cycle, keep me like, let me know where you're at. And then I don't do a whole week. I'll do the 3 days. So like I had said that before, I'll usually do like an extended refeed or something like that for those couple of days where it is not a free for all. It is not given to your cravings and things like that, because quite frankly, we live in a world of giving in to every fucking craving we want all the time, because you can go get whatever the fuck you want at the grocery store. Like it's everywhere. And that's one of my things too, is like people will be like, well, I just had to have French fries. I'm like, well, McDonald's has been around forever. And it's like, I'm pretty sure on damn near every continent. I would be shocked to find out it wasn't like in Antarctica with like the penguins, so that they could get French fries when they want them. You'll be able to get French fries when it'll fit into your day. And if you find that you're somebody who needs those comfort foods, I am, for the most part, chocolate, same. We ship it in from California, and I make sure I can have from my favorite little place. And I have like 2 to 3 pieces every single day, so that it's not like a fear food. And I feel like a lot of times for people who end up in that like food spiral during their cycles are going to be a lot of times the same ones who have those fear foods that they will not allow themselves to have at any other point in their cycle. And so then it's like, well, my body was saying I had to have it because of my period, is what the like where the like mantra around it will almost be. But is it also because maybe where, you know, I talked to a client about this yesterday. Hers got her like bad, and she was not happy about it. And that, along with other things that she had said over the last 2 to 3 check-ins, I was like, 100% we're pulling out of our diet today. Like we're done. And we are shifting our macros into something else, because if we're at a point where we're going like to almost double our calories and things like that in those situations, then just across the board, we are in like, I don't want you to feel like you're failing the first cycle of your month of every single month. Like all the time, because that's a huge hit to 25% of your month guaranteed. You're going to feel like a failure. That sucks. And so we either have to work on some strategies to keep us on plan. Like Jess said, I'm a big one to tell people, like, go grab yourself a Diet Coke, go on a walk, and like see how you feel after that. Still hungry? Grab yourself a protein shake. Drink that first. Because the thing is, if you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I'm gonna die. And I'm like, cool, here's some overcooked chicken and steamed broccoli. And if you're hungry, you're gonna be like, fuck yes, and devour it. But if you're just cravings and like just in the mood to eat, like, no, who wants overcooked chicken and broccoli? And so like that's another like check-in with yourself where it's like, is this really driven by my energy needs? Or is this something that I'm just saying I should be allowed to have right now? And I mean, anybody who's worked with me knows that I'm like on the team of, we're going to work around fear foods. Like we're going to put those into our diet so that we can take that control away. We're going to keep in fun stuff like that and everything to try and get away from that as much as we can. If I do have somebody who's just getting their ass kicked, I will try and work macros in like to fix that. But like more so than not, I'm going to encourage them to stick to it. And then maybe we talk more often. I do that a lot too, where like if it's coming, I'll be like, send me a quick email, like at the end of each of your days then. And where it's like, hey, I stuck to it. Like it was beating me up and I really wanted this, but I stuck to it. Or, hey, it got me, I had 4 Oreos or whatever. And I'm never going to respond to be like, oh, I can't believe you did that. But like, okay, so that happened last night. How are we feeling this morning? Did it scratch the itch? Did it change your world and make everything better that we went over? And if they're like, yeah, I feel so good and I can move on, cool. Well, then now we know, maybe we plan for that, like a little bump of something. But if it's like, no, I felt the exact same, like, okay, see, the Oreos don't have the power. We can move forward and just stick to our stuff. But I think it has become a thing, like I think you said, Sarah, where it's like, I deserve it. Like I made it this far.
Yeah. People really like to reward themselves with food. And like it's a social thing. Like I get that. Like we celebrate around food, we have cake, we like birthdays, Thanksgiving, anniversaries, like we celebrate with food. One of my like Bob and I's favorite thing to do as a couple is go out for a nice dinner.
Yeah.
Like that's literal, so it's surrounding food. So I understand that. But if you're finding that you're using that kind of language and you're almost using it as a crutch, then that is where you need to check yourself on that. And you need to check yourself on your environment that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
From like, yeah, at your home, is there stuff in your house that maybe are throwing your thoughts and feelings certain ways? Like I know for me in prep, not right now, but like I'm sure like closer to show, there are some things that I'll probably like not really want in my house. Because I'll just be like, ooh, it's open, I'm just gonna snack on it. And I've never done that in the past. I've always been on my diet. But I know myself. Actually, it's more post show. It's more post show than in like prep. I'm fine. I could give a fuck. It's post show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like curating your social media feed and the things that you are consuming on like Netflix and that kind of stuff, right? It's the same kind of thing. If whatever you're watching, it's going to throw back at you more. So like I'm curating my feed right now to not have crumble cookie reviews and like all of that kind of stuff. I just like flip through it really fast and then I intentionally watch videos of something else. But like, yeah, it's and everyone's really different. I wanted to touch on what you said, Christina, about how some people having, let's say, like 4 Oreos is going to be like, oh, that was fulfilling to me. I feel good, cool, I'm good, I can mentally move on. Whereas some people, I'm like, no, I actually feel terrible, or that didn't help it, or because I feel like some people, they have an itch and they try to do all of these different things in order to like distract themselves from said itch, and then it just ends up going overboard.
Yeah.
So in that situation, it's like, well, you should have just gone and like gotten the ice cream instead of like had protein shake plus this plus that, and like made your own weird ice cream concoction out of protein powder, and then blah blah blah. Oh, and then you went and had the ice cream anyways.
But
It's
the
like,
whole sleeve of Oreos.
yes. Or people who are just like, oh, I can have a few spoonfuls and like I'm good, and then I like move on. So it's again like learning about yourself, like going back to the beginning of this podcast and understanding your cycle and what you're needing in different parts. What are you needing mentally from food and fuel? And I always think of like fuel or food is there to celebrate, and it is a social aspect. And so there needs to be like that mentality around it. That's okay. But also if you're consuming mostly high quality foods, high quality nutrients, you're getting your vitamins, minerals, and produce and blah, blah, blah in, you're probably fueled properly from like a vitamin and minerals perspective. And you're probably going to be less susceptible to have these cravings and things like that. If you just have a well-balanced diet in the first place, you know?
Yeah, I was going to mention that sometimes I'll ask clients to lean into like, I'll talk about like have all of your meals look like if you were going to be that person who shared all of their meals to Instagram, like do that, make them look that way, where it's like, look at my lean protein and look at all of my produce and my greens and stuff. And like, try that out almost, because I think a lot of the times it is that like, there's something we're missing that like we need to boost a little bit. Now, is that the answer to all of our period cravings? No. But like sometimes for people that aren't giving that a shot, and maybe the chocolate and the Oreos are the only things that they turn to, and it's like, well, are we hitting our produce goals? And then if they all of a sudden, like today, I'm doing a very bad job of getting it in because I've been talking and emailing instead. But like I made myself like a giant bowl of strawberries and bananas and stuff like that. As like, I'll start doing those again when I know I need to check in with myself and start making like fruit bowls and like salads. And usually it just helps me overall feel better, you know? So like for my period, I'm somebody who like this morning I went to go for a run and I was sitting there staring at my pantry. I'm just like, if I put any of this into my body right now before I go work out, like it's not going to end well. And what I worry about is I'm going to have to run to a bathroom not to throw up. And so I did not want that to happen like halfway around a lake today. And so I went with like a sport like carb source that I could just pound while I was driving there. But then afterwards I got home and was absolutely starving. And so I was like, this is the perfect time for me. I've got 2 servings. I've like, that's an 8-ounce bowl of fruit that I'll house as soon as we're done. And then I had a giant plate of chicken tenders and was like, let's lean into protein and like fruit in those moments first. And then like, that's the joy of flexible dieting, right? Is you have these numbers that you can work with. And like, if we're in a week like that, where you know that you're going to feel a bit weaker when it comes to like fun foods, or if you know that just having one of those like hug meals is going to help a little bit, like, and you just need to go like have a cheeseburger or something, then maybe we have 2 or 3 days that are just not the most nutritious. And like, if you're somebody who's usually very good about that kind of stuff and you hit it, you are not going to become an unhealthy person if like we don't prioritize that stuff just for a hot minute. And quite a lot of those times I'll have people do that. And then it's like, you know, I didn't have any of my normal foods and I feel like shit. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we don't do that. So I'm glad we did this experiment. Let's go back to normal. And so like, there's always like, I've been talking to my clients more about how like a lot of this is just treating our bodies as this science experiment and trying to get the best results and things. And you just have to try new tactics. And it's like throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I mean, for me, I know that mentally I will handle things a lot better if I stay on track than if I tell myself, fuck it, I'm just going to have whatever I want for the first 2 days, because by day 3, I'm going to be very annoyed that I did that.
Yeah, and I think it can throw off like the consistency and the rhythm too, as far as just like, yeah, if we're filling our body with nutrient dense foods that are fit our numbers and fit our goals for whatever season we're in, I think, yes, it's going to spill over into, hey, we have more energy. You know, digestion might be a little bit wonky during our cycle and energy might be a little bit wonky, but it's going to be wonkier if we're stacking these, you know, cheeseburgers and French fries and cravings and all those kinds of things and rows of Oreos into our day, because we're just not going to feel like well at all. And then we're on our period, and then it's like, hey, I just don't feel like doing this right now. And I think that does kind of just snowball over time. And then, like you said, then we lose the week of progress. And so I think that it is about knowing the client and knowing what they need individually, because like I said, like I think it was Jess that said this earlier, some of my clients can do like the couple of Oreos or like one crumble cookie and they can stop. And they're like, I have the discipline, that scratched the itch, I'm done. The others say, I know myself, it cannot be in the house when I want to have it, and I need to go for a walk or find something else to replace that craving, quote unquote, and go drink a bubbly water and move on with my day. And then when I feel more in control of it, when I feel more in control of my cravings and control of those things, and then I can choose to have it instead of maybe even having the food choose me. So.
Yeah.
You make the choice, not the food chooses you, or whatever you said. That was good.
Yeah.
I know. I like
You
that
choose
a
the
lot.
food. The food doesn't choose you.
Boom. Sarah,
Boom.
you go
Mic
choose
drop.
that for our clip, okay?
No, I'm not picking myself. Sorry.
Oh yeah, if you guys don't know, if you're ever talking to anybody on a social media source, it's Sarah.
Hi.
She chooses our clips for everything and all that fun stuff. Makes us look good on the internet.
Don't at me, bro. It's okay. It's fine.
Love it. Okay, let's see. So we chatted training, we chatted macros, we chatted fluctuations over lifetimes, different I was going to say periods of life, but I feel like that's too on brand for this talk. So like different phases, I guess. Is there anything we've missed?
I want to know like your tips on managing bloating. I think that's one thing also that I think my clients are like, hey, some of my clients go to like maybe the sauna or go for a walk, drink a little bit more water. What do you guys think?
My question would be, does any of that actually make them feel better?
Yeah.
Not really.
Like period bloating is different than like, oh, I had like a lot of produce and like it's
reactive
gas.
food bloating. It's different. There's nothing healthy about it. I don't.
Mine is like dress comfy,
Yeah.
wear oversized shirts, have like a warm bath or have like a heating pad, do some like nice stretching or restorative yoga or something that's calming. That's it. Like it's just, yeah, for me it's like it's different than like bloating for other reasons. It's basically like I'm just gonna wear some comfy pants and I'm gonna wear an oversized shirt, and my buckle belt when I'm lifting might be a little bit like looser and whatever. I do make sure that I'm super hydrated, but like I don't think that helps with like period discomfort.
For me, it happens at ovulation, not so much like I'm somebody who digestive wise, like I clean out for my period. My body is just like, let's get rid of everything. And so like that's never any fun. Ovulation wise, I'm the exact opposite, where I feel like everything backs up and I legitimately will look like 5 months pregnant and just be like, what is going on? And it's funny because it'll still catch me up off guard every now and then. If I'm not watching it like in my app, or if like I happen to see it, I'll have a morning where I'll wake up and like one day I was up like 4.5 pounds and like nothing had happened the day before. I was super uncomfortable and I was like, the fuck is happening? Like started going through like everything. Like, what have I done wrong? Because I've just had I have weighed between 140 and 143 for like 18 months now. Like I don't really fluctuate outside of that. And, but ovulation sometimes like every other month I will spike above the 145 mark where I'm like, holy shit, why are we approaching 150? Like this doesn't make sense. And then it'll come off like the next day. For the most part, it'll fall right off. So I wonder if it happens like right before ovulation, and like once that happens, it gives in. But for me, the shower and the bath thing, but you know, what's funny is sometimes even the bath, I'll be uncomfortable. It's something of, I don't know, like buoyancy or something, like sitting there will almost make it worse, or not worse, but like I'll be more aware. And so I feel like showers make me more comfortable with that. And then I'm a bit more careful about my food choices. I can't go, like, I'm not going to be super high fiber if I'm feeling that way, because it's not that I need to flush food through me or something like that. It's just that I am like gassy and bloated and stuff as a result to hormonal fluctuations. And so I'm usually a bit like easier to digest on like those days so that I'm not just exacerbating the problem. And because I know that once that happens, I'll be fine in like 24 to 36 hours if I just try to stay as normal as possible. Do you have any tricks that you do?
I like that. My husband actually bought me like one of those little like mobile heating pad. You can actually wear it as a belt. He found it on Amazon. But I just lay on the couch and like with my legs up at the end of the day, and I'll put that on there just to help just a little bit. That's been my saving grace. And then I do try to stay as hydrated as I can, but it's the summertime, so that just happens naturally. And then yeah, I definitely avoid like the broccolis and like the cauliflowers and the Brussels sprouts. I'm like, why do I want to add to my discomfort? When I'm already feeling a little bit bigger than usual. And also I think too, just bringing awareness to that fact too, because it's, you said, Christina, sometimes you see it. And I think sometimes too, it can creep up on some ladies that may not be tracking it as closely as far as like, oh, wow, okay, the scale jumped. Wait, let me go back. Is this supposed to be a time when I'm supposed to be getting it? Did it come early? And stuff like that too. So they will actually tell me that in their check-ins. They're just like, yeah, it spiked. And then I looked back and I'm like, oh, that's what it was happening. And so I think it is really cool when we do start diving more into that kind of stuff.
I've had clients ask to like, where they're like, can I just not weigh like during those times and stuff? And I never, if somebody's uncomfortable with the scale, like I had one client, we worked together for like 9 months, and it wasn't until the last like 6 weeks that we jumped on the scale. Like we never touched a scale for the entire time. And so like, I don't push it on people, but if it's somebody who's normally comfortable with it, I'll be like, let's watch it and let's learn what happens there, because I think that can be power too, that it's not like then okay, just give myself X amount of time and things will be fine. And so I don't think hiding from it is going to do us any justice. But if you're somebody where the scale crushes you, then you're like, yeah, just stay away from it. But yeah, aren't we so lucky? Oh, uterus and everything else.
It's a good sign of internal health, and we should be grateful every time it comes around.
Yeah.
I'm fucking grateful.
I mean, when you go through not having it and stuff, like it's so nice to get it back, and you're just like, things are carrying on as they should. And I mean, that's one of the things that like, if they get really weird out of nowhere too, and you haven't changed anything, that's a good time to talk to your doctor too, maybe get a second look at things and take care of yourself. So, all right, ladies, have we beat it to death? We're good.
I think so. I think we've talked all the period we can.
Yeah.
Periods. Yes.
It's been an hour.
It has been. It has. We're approaching it. I think we talked until like 12:39. I always watch it to try and see where we're at before we start. So, guys, if you have any questions for us or any, want to reach out, you know where to find us. It's our names at prophysique.com. Like I said, Sarah is the one on the social media. And so if you have any questions there, she knows how to find all of us. And then this is going to come out in August. And so you should go sign up for the Fall into Fitness Transformation Challenge, because our tickets are actually available today, which is July 17th, but this will come out in, I think, 2 weeks. So that's exciting. We have that stuff going on. And this one's going to go over a couple of holidays. It's going to happen over Halloween and Thanksgiving. And, at first we were like, oh, is that a good idea? But Sarah and I are actually like overly excited about the fact that we get to play with holidays, because we can incorporate this into like a learning coaching opportunity. And how do we not lose ourselves a lot, like we talked about today, and not see holiday weight gain as an inevitability, as some people see cravings and periods and stuff. So I think that's going to be lots of fun. And Jess, you have an event I keep forgetting the weekend. It's in Dallas. When is it?
Dallas,
16th?
August 11th.
Oh, I was a week off. August 11th.
Sunday, August 11th.
It is. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Which show is it that you're going to be at?
It's the Texas Super Show and Texas State, or it's not the Texas State Pro. It's the Texas.
I think it's a Texas Pro. Maybe they took the state off.
I know. Yeah, there is this Texas State Pro.
Yes.
But that is later in the year. It is the Texas Pro and the Texas Super Show. So we will have a booth at the expo because it's an expo. Don't expect it to be like the Arnold, or maybe it is. I don't know. Fuck yeah. And
It's year four, right?
Hmm?
Isn't it the first year where they're doing like the expo part of it?
yeah. Like I don't think that they've done like an expo thing. But we're gonna have a booth there. Pro Physique will have a booth there. And then on the Sunday, we are having a competitor seminar at Hidden Gym. It is sold out. There is a wait list. But Evan, Lexi, Steven, Paul, De Raja will be there. I will also be there. Yeah, it's be great.
Yay, fun stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you're having a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.